Hello everybody and welcome to some coverage of Marvel Rivals here on G4G. I am Napalm Dawn, or in the case of Marvel Rivals, real Napalm Dawn, because for some reason it seemed to have been taken, so why not? We have a new season to talk about here in Marvel Rivals. It is being called potentially the Darkhold season, or the first real big season, a primary one. It looks like the countdown is going to be 90 days, whereas the last one was only about 30, but it was sort of like a preseason, or like a kind of a beta test season, even though we've been out of beta for some time. Congratulations to Marvel Rivals for keeping its player count up. A lot of times games nowadays sort of just are a flash in the pan. They pop up and they go away. And of course, with Marvel Rivals, you had that stiff competition with Overwatch. The two very much can exist in the same space and time, because Marvel Rivals is actually a third-person shooter, whereas Overwatch is a first-person shooter. So there are some differences. However, when you look at some of the characters, you could see how there has been some back and forth across the volleyball net, really, with the character ideas and everything and their abilities. But let's go ahead and talk about this season. And this being a NetEase game, you're going to see some things that you're pretty much going to predictably think, yeah, that's NetEase, and we will definitely talk about that. So, going over to the season tab, you can see the battle pass is there, and then you have missions and events. So, there are Fantastic Four related events over here. The first one that is unlocked now is Analysis, which you have to trigger recursive destruction 3 times in Empire of the Eternal Night Midtown, which I believe is its own game mode. Everybody Hates Reed, where you defeat 5 enemies with Brainiac bounces Mr. Fantastic. More of that in a moment. Or practice versus AI. So you're saying I could do that against the bots? Huh, that's going to be interesting. Or launch 10 enemies with force physics as Invisible Woman in the same circumstances. Win 2 matches of Empire Eternal Night Midtown. Or win 5 matches in Quick Match, Competitive, or Practice. So these ors are cool in the sense that you're not locked into a specific character. In the last season, there was like defeat people with the Odin Force active if you're like Storm or Captain America. I mean, there were some crazy combos that people felt like, man, this is really, really tough to do. This seems pretty decent. This Everybody Hates Reed, if this could be done in practice, well, then that's easy. And the fact that they're giving you ore conditionals is also pretty good. Now, you are getting 60 units over here, which is a bit decent, and you're getting the chrono tokens for that one. This one seems to be just a spray, which kind of reminds me of, it has an art style similar to Delicious in Dungeon, or Dungeon Messy, I believe is the Japanese name of it. I know it is Delicious in Dungeon because I got introduced to it through the girlfriend, and I watched season 1 of it, and I did get into it. At first, I was a little resistant to it, but I got talked in. If we were to take a look at the Battle Pass, we now have this thing called a Luxury Battle Pass, which you need to buy into, and we will take a look at that in a moment. If you get the Luxury Battle Pass, immediately you get this pretty cool skin for Loki called the All Butcher. Not too sure if it is related to Gore at all, who is the God Butcher. It is Call Me Loki the Necro God, and he did use the Necro Sword as Gore, so potentially some relations there. Comic people would have to tell me about that one. Some sprays, a Mr. Fantastic nameplate, and then you get into the luxury ones like Blood Moon Knight, or Blood Moon Knight, which is not a style for him that I've seen yet. And also, it is now 7 pages instead of the 4 or 5 pages the last one was. I think I'm getting the luxury pass for sure, because there is a Rocket Raccoon skin here, and more on that in the future. I'll show you that in a little. Well, actually, I can pop over and show that to you right now. Oh, it cleared it out. Can I go back? Okay, so yeah, Rocket Raccoon was pretty much my main in the first season. Matches played 53, wins 35. So that is definitely a pretty big volume. And then Squirrel Girl was my main DPS. I often was getting a lot of quests for her, so I picked up her dragon uniform. I do find it a bit pants, or a bit shit, that your moments have to go up to TikTok and nothing else. Unsurprising for NetEase, but considering here in the States, you know, TikTok has kind of been under fire. There's been pressure on TikTok from many different angles and everything, so being forced into interfacing with TikTok just to get, you know, Rivals content out there, it could bother some people. I wish there was more customization to that. I wish there was more options for it, but that's a story for a different day. Yeah, I'm gonna get that Rocket skin. I picked up the Guardians of the Galaxy one. Had I known this was coming, I never would have picked up an extra Rocket skin. I would have stuck with the Squirrel Girl one and then waited this one out. We have a blue Tarantula for Penny Parker and Spider. She is a tank that I do like to use at times. I've done Doctor Strange when I have shield tasks or shield quests. But I do like Penny Parker quite a bit. I feel that she can do kind of a ton of damage while also doing some reasonable tanking, and I feel like she survives a lot. We have King Magnus for Magneto, kind of really giving some Sigma vibes here, and I mean Sigma from Overwatch, not Sigma as in Alpha, Beta, and Sigma and everything. Savage Submariner, I've never played Namor, so don't particularly care either way for this skin, but it does look pretty good if I ever got into Namor. Obviously, that would be a standout skin. Eternal Night Falls is a gallery card. Going further, we have Blood Edge armor for Iron Man, and Jesus Christ, that is amazing. Man, I have never seen anything like that for Iron Man, and let me tell you, Marvel Avengers, the Square/Crystal Dynamics game that is no longer under development, had a ton of skins from Iron Man, from Iron Man's comics all over the place, and I've never seen one like that, and my god, that looks amazing. It has sort of... It doesn't have a steampunk vibe to it. It has a very gothic, sort of Castlevania, anime, Dracula kind of vibe going on over here. Yeah, I really like that. I would hope to get up to that skin at some point. Gothic Return for Adam Warlock. Interesting. I don't really like the mask, I think. The rest of the uniform is kind of cool and sort of, in a lot of ways, very Paladin-ish from World of Warcraft with the book on his waist and everything. But that mask is a little weird. Sort of has a bit of a Blasphemous vibe to it. Blasphemous 1 and 2. Emporium Matron, Scarlet Witch. Good. I like it. It is... So, Marvel Avengers Alliance had a Romany skin to it. I might... At times I called it Stripper Witch. It also could have passed for a very Romany skin. This one seems a little bit like that, but more gothic and more evil. And I think the Cosmos effect is active on her... the hangdown portion from her top over here, Gamora and Singularity use this in Marvel Future Fight. Gamora has a cloak that does this, and there's another character, Singularity, that does this, where rotating the particular clothing item or the character or the uniform sort of rotates the viewpoint rather than it being a static thing. It's like you are changing a viewpoint, a viewport into outer space there, the cosmos. I like that effect. That always really gets me when I see it, and Marvel Future Fight's got a few like that. Looks like we may have a intro over here for Wolverine. Okay. Really badass. Getting a very big Helsing vibe. Also getting a McCree vibe from Overwatch. Has kind of a similar build to McCree, but a little bit broader. Yeah, definitely a very Van Helsing vibe. And of course, Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, and Van Helsing. Tell me Van Helsing is a bad movie. I would fight you for that. I fucking love Van Helsing. It had been a while since I'd seen it, but it was on cable about half a month ago or so, and of course that stopped me in my tracks for a while. But yeah, that's a pretty cool skin. I don't play Wolverine. I know the best way to play him tends to be as a tank buster, sort of like Reaper from Overwatch, but a melee version. That's a cool skin. And then we finish up on a Fantastic Four card. For heroes, speaking of Fantastic Four, we have two new ones, the first of which is going to be Invisible Woman. She is going to come in as a strategist, or basically support. She goes ahead and throws orb projections out, where they travel a distance away from her and then come back. They sort of similar to Cloak and Dagger, or Luna Snow, or Anna over in Overwatch, where it will damage enemies, but it will heal friendlies. It goes through them, and then it comes back. Her first ability is to do a psionic push or pull. After you hit the ability, you're given the option of a right click or a left click, where you can send somebody away or pull them in. Relatively unique, especially in the fact that there is a choice. Can't say I know of any other characters in this game or Overwatch that has something quite like this. She actually has a melee combo. It's a 3-hit combo. And that is where she goes slap, slap, force push, basically. She has the ability to generate a force field at her feet and launch herself in the up in the air, which creates invisibility when she does it. Her right click is Guardian Shield, which will put a shield in front of a friendly. If somebody tries to walk through it that is an enemy, they get slowed, but anybody who is behind it that is a friendly is protected and gets healed. Little bit kind of like Ramatra over in Overwatch, except for the slowing and the healing part over there. Ramatra is able to project a shield out, where Sigma sort of projects one out of his body and then it travels a distance and you stop it. Ramatra is able to sort of just place one out there in the world. When Invisible Woman gets out of active combat, she goes invisible. And this is where you're starting to see the memes on Reddit of the comparison between her and Sombra, where Sombra essentially sort of is phased back in the last panel of it, whereas Invisible Woman is still invisible. From what people have said and the write-ups that I've seen on this, she is truly invisible. There is not even so much as a shimmer or a glimmer, the way you would have seen like Zeratul in Heroes of the Storm, or Nova, where you see like a little bit of a shimmer, or Hela when you sort of just track the Crow, or Scarlet Witch where you sort of track that like red orb. She is like truly, completely invisible. She has a movement ability. Well, it's not really a movement ability, but she has Psionic Vortex, which gathers energy and draws people into it. If she hits the key again, it erupts into a vortex and continues to draw enemies in and causes damage. This is a little bit similar to something that, let's see, Hela has that move where she throws kind of an orb out, and it stuns when it impacts things. I don't remember if it has a reactivate or not. And then her ultimate is a big giant dome that makes everybody inside of it invisible, which means they're undetectable, so they're essentially kind of untargetable. That's why the little Kraken turret stops hitting Punisher on it. Probably, I'm not exactly too sure if, like, an Iron Man is up in the air and he yells about his pulse and you drop this down. Does it just whiff? I think it would actually land through it and still hurt people, but if it was cast before he uses it, he wouldn't exactly know what he's hitting inside of the dome. This dome looks big enough that if people move after it's cast, they're probably not going to be where enemies expect them to be. Hopefully people are going to be smart about that. And then she has a team up with Reed, where Reed fortifies himself with a bit of a shield. And of course, now we have to talk about her husband, Mr. Fantastic, which has got some goofy as shit abilities on it. It's funny. Stretch Punch is a 1-2-3-4 combo. You see it go out as left, right, kind of a big sweep. Another little sweep over there. It gives him stacks of elasticity. Flexible elongation. Gain a shield. Select a target and dash towards them, dealing damage to enemies or granting a shield to allies. So this first Punisher is an enemy. It damages him, but this Punisher gets a shield. And of course, elasticity is growing up. You can see 30-60 over there. Right click is extended grip, which is a bit of a yank, or yank two targets and slam them together. Extend arms forward to entangle an enemy, then press left again to pull the hit enemy towards you, or select and yank another enemy. Very, very unique in the two games. If we're talking about Overwatch and Rivals, this is very, very unique ability over here. So, Marvel Rivals is definitely innovating. Elastic Strength is his passive. Using abilities generate elasticity, boosting his attack power. Reaching full elasticity triggers Soul Mode, where he is inflated and grants a shield and does even more boosted damage. His shift ability is, this is the comical one over here, where he basically turns into Plastic Man. God, that's this ability is so fucking funny. Just looking at this character from the back and seeing that, and seeing him sort of rebound damage, kind of like the Blob does in a lot of Marvel games, is funny. And then his ultimate is again. Somewhere Winter Soldier is now going to be crying in envy over here that he is just flopping all over the place. Just leap upward, smash the ground, slowing enemies within range, can leap again upon landing a hit. So if you are actually getting people, you can again. You know, this is Reed just is funny. First, when I kept seeing the big reflexive rubber ability, I thought he might be a tank or a Vanguard. I was actually kind of surprised that he was going to be DPS. I really had it in thinking he was a tank. Now is going to come the time in the video that I think you're all waiting for, and if you know anything about this particular season, you're probably waiting for me to get to it, and that's the skins for the two Fantastic Four people. First, we'll take a look at Lunar General Moon Knight, who's kind of got a very Gilgamesh from Final Fantasy vibe to him. Sorry, I just wanted to cancel the animation there. We'll let it run. He is not as multi-weaponed as Gilgamesh, but in some ways it sort of does remind me of how Final Fantasy has represented Gilgamesh over the years a little bit. It's very cool. If you saw the skin, I think maybe you would not immediately think it's Moon Knight. If you saw the belt or the cloak, maybe, but yeah, very awesome skin. Mr. Fantastic, the Maker bundle. So the Maker is a evil version of Reed. When I first saw this skin for Marvel Future Fight, at first I thought it was Charles. I thought it was Xavier with this helmet, because Xavier has kind of had a similar look when he has Cerebro as a helmet. I was like, oh no, okay, so that's Reed. Aha. So yes, this is a villainous, very egomaniacal version of Mr. Fantastic. The bundle comes with an MVP animation over here, which looks cool. Kind of getting some Havoc vibes from that, but it's also watery, so not Havoc, but a little bit Havoc. You have a double impact emote. That's a pretty cool nameplate. That grin is really evil. And a spray. And, okay, the elephant in the room, Invisible Woman as Malice. Malice is a version of Sue that existed after she had a miscarriage, and somebody got into her head and literally reversed her feelings. And when I mean literally reversed her feelings, I mean literally reversed her feelings. It took all her love for her family and Reed and turned it into hate. And this is where things get a little dark. Reed had to make this version of Sue hate Reed so that she flipped it back to love. She was infected with this flipped emotion by somebody using a hate monger android on her. And that's kind of interesting, because I had always known hate monger to be Adolf Hitler within the Marvel universe, and this was a hate monger android. In some ways, I've always wanted a game, one of the Marvel games, especially Marvel Avengers Alliance, to try to do something with hate monger, but it is an extremely touchy subject. I've wanted to see him as a villain and see him use the hate gun on people and kind of see what that would be as an effect. I don't think anybody would touch that version of hate monger, and even if somebody tried to do a variant of hate monger, people would tie it back to Hitler. It's not going to work. But yeah, this is Malice, and of course there is going to be some community reactions to it. People are going to say this is an instant buy, this is a given, oh yes, please hurt me, Dommy Mommy, and things like that. And then you're going to have the flip side that's going to say this is for gooners, this is typical NetEase sexual pandering, and that's why over here. That is a good looking butt over there that is kind of reminds me of Cammy from Street Fighter. We've seen butts like this. We've seen Nova do it in StarCraft and Heroes of the Storm. I mean, there has been attractive butts out there before. But yeah, that kind of reminds me of Cammy from Street Fighter, and you're probably going to see a ton of Invisible Woman supports, probably for 2 or 3 weeks, and they're going to be running this. This thumbnail sort of looks like Blasphemous to me, the Crown of Thorns, but here is her MVP screen. I have a little bit of an issue with that as an MVP, because when do you typically think of Sue as being so melee based and sort of like you remember how when Star-Lord is fighting Thanos in Infinity War and Doctor Strange is like throwing discs out to him and he uses them to kind of sprint and hop along the air? That's the vibe I'm getting from this one, and I don't think it necessarily jives with how we're used to Sue being. Now, Malice, on the other hand, maybe it fits Malice. It seems slightly out of character, but okay. Malice has this inner turmoil emote, which sort of makes me think of like a Hela zombie, sometimes referred to as a Greg. It's sort of when she goes limp there, that sort of reminds me of like a Greg zombie. I think it's a cool emote. That is her nameplate, and it really getting Blasphemous vibes from that, the main character from Blasphemous. And this is her spray, which I think is pretty cool. So yeah, of course, that's, you know, that's going to be the highly sexualized skin of modern, modern rivals over here. There are some others that certainly get up there a little bit. I think that one is probably the most sexualized right now. Gallery's going to have some new stuff. Settings will draw you over to it because of this community. Mostly they want you to join that membership program, the NetEase Gamer Premium. I think I would do it. I think it is fair. And I don't think it is being ethnocentric. I think it is being fair to say, be careful of what you're signing up for with Chinese companies and how they manage data. I don't necessarily know that I've heard too many bad things about NetEase, other than them getting a little upset when Blizzard broke off the partnership, and then Blizzard's back with them again. They have put out some things that you could kind of consider Blizzard clones, potentially out of revenge. Like Terraceland. I think NetEase is behind Terraceland. Sort of a WoW clone-ish. I definitely see myself picking up the luxury battle pass so I can go and get those Darkhold skins. It is essentially this tier right here. It is the $20 tier. We'll get it for you. We've discussed this in the first video. These kinds of games tend to be predatory with their purchases, in that you don't ever get a purchase that lines up directly to the thing you want to purchase. It's always a little under or a little over. And if it's a little over, it kind of gets you to spend more. And then the game mode that we're talking about over there with the Fantastic Four stuff, I believe is this one, Quick Match Midtown. I haven't tried it yet. I did do the Jeff thing, and I did complete everything I wanted to do with the Jeff Winter Wonderland. So I have a feeling it would be a mode like that, except it's actually here rather than going to a separate menu to get it. That's my Rocket Raccoon skin. That's the Guardians of the Galaxy one. Kind of wish I didn't spend stuff for it, but oh well. And I had a code that gave me an Iron Man skin. Unfortunately, I don't use Iron Man too much, but there was a code that was floating out there that gave you a alternate skin, and that is the Armor Model 42 that I have. You've seen my Squirrel Girl one, and of course Hela got one in the Battle Pass from last season, so I have this sort of celestial Hela going on. I have gotten into playing Hela a little bit. I seem to have a weird muscle memory thing with the timing of her bolts. I feel like I should be hitting people more frequently than I am, and I wind up whiffing a little bit more than I think. My Doctor Strange has a skin from the season pass last season. Jeff has a skin because of the Winter Wonderland event. Completely cute as hell. Goofy, cute. I don't actually use him while playing. I think he's considered the highest HPS out of any healer. His ultimate is kind of funny. Penny has a Viper skin that I would like to grab. You've already seen my Squirrel Girl, and I think that is about it for the uniforms that I have currently. I definitely am looking forward to getting that this Loki one here from the Battle Pass. I am drawn to getting skins for heroes that I use very frequently, sort of as like a standout thing. That is why Rocket was definitely high up there, and Squirrel Girl. as of right now, other than just a few skins, I don't think I'm spending too much money on this, but I definitely am going to get the Battle Pass. By the way, fuck Iron Fist. Iron Fist players suck. Anyway, that is the new season in Marvel Rivals. If you want to see a little bit of details on some other representation of Malice, the Marvel Super Wars, which is also by NetEase, they have done Malice in the past. This is a comic cover, and Marvel Snap uses it. So Sue has always been represented as pretty attractive. Malice isn't just a she's not just a fan. She's not just fan service and everything. She has been around in other games. These pictures are of Marvel Rivals, but she also existed in Marvel Super War. As this game is now dead, but you can see some videos of it on YouTube. Actually, yeah, here it is. I knew I had it up somewhere.
Huh. You look like you have a problem.
So at least here on the field, it's hard to kind of get a bearing on the skin and exactly what it looks like. And I don't have access to Marvel Super War anymore because the game is dead. But if you want to see where Sue has been represented as Malice before, it was another NetEase game, and it was Marvel Super War. So you can Google it and check it out. You can go over to YouTube and see some footage of it. But yeah, it is a dark character when you dive into exactly what was the background there with Malice. And it remains to be seen what happens when we get Human Torch and Thing. And I'm telling you, kind of looks like Thing is a little occupied right now. Yeah, Thing looks like he's a little occupied. I'll just leave it at that. So thanks for checking out the video, everybody. And have a good one. If you're on the East Coast of the United States, like myself, make sure you are safe and warm and not out there needlessly driving in some of the crap we're getting pelted with. Have a good one.